Okay.
Yeah, it is recording now.
Oh, okay, good.
It
Yes.
says stop recording. Why in the world? Oh, yeah, I got it. No, it is recording now.
Recording. I think it announces you're recording, right?
It is on. Very nice to meet you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
My family ancestors come from Munich.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so in 1882, there were two big migration in Europe. The German, around, I don't know, 5,000 families moved to the south of Chile in South America.
Yeah.
So that's what my family come from. I was born in Chile.
Ah, really?
Yeah, and then a big migration from Italian moved to Argentina. So
Yeah.
Argentina, a lot of many people have Italian last name, and then in my case, right, the first German arrived in 1882 from Hamburg to the south of Chile.
Ah,
So my mother last name is Hoferberg, Hochfarber.
that sounds German. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm doing research into the family ancestor. I came across a lot of good people. So
I've never been to Chile. I've only made it to Colombia and Venezuela, but I liked it very much.
okay, yeah, Chile is beautiful, man. It's a big German community in the south. I don't know, like I don't know, 100,000 people.
Yeah, but if you travel, you don't want to meet other Germans. You go there to meet Chilean normally.
Yeah, I got you. All right, let's do a formal introduction for our show. From the studios in Fairfax City, we're very humble and grateful that Lutz Graf-Ulbrich accepted our invitation to our show. Lutz is one of the key figures in the German experimental band. He formed Agitation Free and also played with Ash Ra Tempel, later Ash Ra, and many other bands. Welcome to the show, Lutz, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. So tell me what's with the pandemic and everything that's going on in the world. How you doing? How your family doing? You cannot tour. You're at home. The lockdown and everything.
Yeah, it's a tough time for artists now, even here in Germany, because all the concerts are cancelled and. Normally, I should be on tour right now, a big Germany tour with a band called 17 Hippies. It's like a world music band I'm playing with. But last year we didn't play one concert, and this year this tour was cancelled. When all this started, that's a good thing about it. In March, the first lockdown, I composed a song, and my wife did the video. And I produced it at home all by myself, which nowadays is possible with all the technique. That's that. I mean, that's a kind of solution. And the song was called "The World Stands Still," and it's in German. I'm a German songwriter, and but I got some subtitles on YouTube. So. If you want to look that up,
yeah, definitely, yeah.
It's on my channel, and I'm just writing a new song. I'm working on it at home. It's called "Free Speech,"
Yeah.
Which is more difficult to contain, and so yeah, I might go to a manifestation after this interview in front of the Brandenburg Gate, where there are some lawyers who fight for the freedom of press, and well, that's so I'm quite working in these groups and try to well to change the way it's going right now.
You mean in terms of freedom of speech, more right to the people? It has something to do with the pandemic or nothing to do with the pandemic?
Yes. At the beginning, I was. What is? I heard some.
I, I cannot hear you.
Is that traffic? Is that traffic?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So in the beginning, in March, when I had to cancel the tour because of the pandemic, no one knew what is happening. Everyone was afraid that there's a really big pandemic coming, and
Yeah.
I was quite okay with it, and thought, well, it's good to make a lockdown, to stay at home, not to meet anyone. But after a while, my wife convinced me that it's not all about this virus, it's about different things. So I had to learn that, and so since then I'm trying to be open-minded and to fight what the government is doing with us, because it's pretty tough what they do. Normally, my work as a musician is cancelled. I mean, we got support from the government in Germany for November, for the second lockdown, and December also. So they give you money, which is good, which helps, because normally I'm living on doing concerts, and as I can't do it anymore, I'm sitting at home and have no work. So yeah, that's the situation right now.
I got you. Understand. For let's start from the beginning. For those new to your music, you know, feel free to introduce yourself, who you are, and so forth.
So sorry, I didn't get it.
For those new to your music, right?
Yeah.
Feel free to introduce yourself.
Oh well, yeah, okay. Well, I'm a Berlin-based musician, and the first real professional band. It was still a band from school called Agitation Free, as you mentioned. And in the beginning, it was like in the 60s. We started in 67.
Yep.
And we tried to copy American music and British music like all the German bands did. I think maybe all over the world. In South America, maybe it's the same. I'm not sure. But of course, it was a big influence. I came to music via Beatles. I heard the sound of the Beatles, and I was thrilled. I was 10 years old, and I learned to play guitar and started the band together with Christoph Franke, which was a neighbor, a friend. We knew each other from the kindergarten, and he played drums, and I played guitar. So we started as school kids, and then with Agitation Free, our other guitar player, Ludwig, he went to London and saw Pink Floyd, which was a big influence. And so he said, well, we have to avoid copying all these bands. We have to free ourselves from all these rules and try to find our own style and improvise. And of course, with all the drugs we were taking at the time, or starting to take, the psychedelic thing going on, and all this, we really were one of the first bands here in Germany and also in Berlin to develop what now is called krautrock. And I'm quite proud that last December the film composer Hans Zimmer, I don't know if you know, if he's known.
Yeah, of course. I'm going to interview him next month.
Oh really?
Oh yeah.
Well, tell him my regards. I don't know him, but he sponsored a plate December for the Electronic Beatstudio in Berlin. That was a studio founded in '69 with Agitation Free, and there was a avant-garde composer, Thomas Kessler.
Yeah.
And it was a place where we could develop this kind of music. And it was like the beginning of the so-called Berlin School of Electronic Music with bands like Tangerine, Ash Ra Tempel, Agitation Free. And Hans Zimmer, he honored this in sponsoring a plate, which is now at the building. And all these composers like Manuel, Edgar Fröse, and so on are named there, and also these bands. So that's how it started.
Wow. Were you born like in a musical family?
Not at all. My father, he could play the piano, but he was electrician. And my mother, she was just a housewife. She also could play the piano, but I've never heard her play. And we didn't have a piano. So, no, there was no such thing. When I was young, we had, of course, we had some records from my parents, like Elvis Presley music or something like this. But it was, normally it was really old-fashioned style of music. And with rock and roll, there was some new influence, but my parents didn't really listen to it. And at that time, in the 50s or early 60s, the radio stations, they wouldn't play this kind of music, or very rarely. So you had to find it by yourself. You know?
Yeah, I got you. So which was piano your first instrument before you began playing guitar?
No, as I told you, what I listened to, actually, it was a Chuck Berry song. I had this record from the Beatles. There was the A side was "I Want to Hold Your Hand," and on the B side there was "Roll Over Beethoven."
Yeah.
But that's a Chuck Berry song, but played by the Beatles, and the guitars. That really got me. That's amazing! What? Oh wow! I've never heard such a sound. And I asked my father, "Do you buy me a guitar? I have to learn guitar, and I want to form a band. I want to become a pop star." And so he bought me this guitar, but he taught me, hey, you have to learn it properly at the school. I said, well, okay. So I began with classical training, and I met Manuel, the founder of Ash Ra Tempel, at age of 12 maybe, or 13 years old. We had the same teacher and guitar lesson.
I got you. So that beautiful story, man. So before Agitation Free, when you were the equivalent in here's high school in Germany, the gymnasium, what band were you playing? Before Agitation Free?
The first band was called the Tigers.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. It was a three-piece band with Christoph Franke on drums and Peter Preis. He was another guitar player, and myself. And we only had like 4 songs. And our first gig was at a school in our class. And we played 4 songs. That was a Hang On Sloopy by the McCoys, and Get Up Off My Cloud from Stones. Another song, and a self-composed song also already. She's Looking Pretty, but she isn't mine. I still remember the text. We did it in English. And that was the first band. And funny thing was, like on a bass drum, we had, do you know the company Esso? Is it? Yeah, the gasoline company. Yeah. And they had the Tiger as a symbol for power, the tiger. Yeah. So we had on the bass drum, there was this tiger face. That was our first sponsor, but they didn't know that they were our sponsors. But that's how it began. And afterwards, after 1-2 years or so, we got different musicians. Still in the gymnasium, and the band was called Sentries. It lasted about maybe a year or so, and then in '67 we met Michael Günther. He was at the same school, and Ludwig Kramer, who was at a different school, and this guy who was in London seeing Pink Floyd. So, and he was a big Pretty Things fan. So now we got together, still copying English and American bands, but then shortly after we decided to improvise music, to play only instrumental music, no songs anymore, and to find a way to create new music, new sounds, and that was the beginning.
Right. And then before you guys released, Malesh in 1972, So you guys put together Agitation Free and then began touring in like pubs, small venues. How was the beginning of Agitation Free?
No, well, as we were living in West Berlin, at the time that was a Cold War, and West Berlin was surrounded by the wall, of course, and for people who don't know how the situation was, it's like Germany was divided after the war between West and East Germany, and there was this big wall, between these two countries, but Berlin was based in the middle of East Germany, but belonged to the West. So that was a really crazy situation. We were like an island, the frontiers, from the Western world, living in the middle of East Germany, surrounded by Russian soldiers and surrounded by the wall. And you could only leave. You were allowed as a West Berlin citizen to go to West Germany. You had to cross East Germany by car or by plane, but we did it, of course, by car. We were young, we didn't have much money, couldn't afford flights. And you had 3 Autobahn going from Berlin to Hamburg, to Bavaria, and to the west. So we had to cross East Germany to go on tour, which was very difficult. So most of the gigs we played in the early years, like 68, 69, were only in Berlin, in West Berlin. And so that's how we started. And that was the same thing with Tangerine Dream, with Ash Ra Tempel. It was pretty tough for us to go on tour, because you had to cross like 200 kilometers to reach the West German, and it wasn't possible to play in East Germany, of course, because of the Cold War. So we in West Berlin, we were like a bit apart from all the others and living in our own, place, which was crazy, because West Berlin was fantastic. It was a little bit like New York, there were they didn't close down in midnight. It was open. We were a very free-spirited little town, but we had a good spirit, and but it was still like a little village. Only was like 1 million people or 2 million people living there.
Yeah, I got you. And then how long it took before that beginning until you guys produce Malesh in 70?
Yeah, that was a very funny story too. There were some clubs in West Berlin where we played, and there was a little festival where we played with Agitation Free, with Tangerine Dream and Ash Ra Tempel, I think, together. And after our concert, a guy came on stage, an older guy with a suit, which was very uncommon. Dressed, and he said, well, he's the council of Cairo, and he wanted to invite us to Egypt. And I mean, as we were only playing in West Berlin, we were like 18 years old, still school kids, and there comes this guy, and I thought he's like tripping or whatever, and inviting us to Egypt. We didn't take it seriously, but then he wasn't the council, he was just a guy from the embassy. But we really made contact to the Goethe Institute, and then the Goethe Institute organized a 3-week tour, which we did next year then. It took about a year to organize it. And of course, we couldn't believe that this is going on, because we were the first rock band really going to these countries,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have seen a lot of pictures.
Yeah,
and then the pyramid, and the picture of Malesh, right? That is,
it was really crazy. It was fantastic, and we felt like Rolling Stones. We had our own chauffeur, and we were driving around, visiting the pyramids, and it was like a big culture clash, of course. To see people near Gizeh, where the pyramids are, fishing with their blank hands, and meeting these people, the Bedouins, dressed with these long coats, and we were with synthesizers, and I had an organ guitar, Vox organ guitar, which was a very a futuristic instrument. You could play guitar and organ with it, with a lot of knobs there. It was a shitty instrument actually, because it was the first thing they built, and it didn't really work well. But it was very avant-garde, and to be in this country as an 18, 19-year-old kid, it was of course a very impressive experience. And what we did in these times, we learned from this Thomas Kessler, this avant-garde composer, to tape record, to record sounds, you know, and to mix it in the music. So we brought a little tape recorder with us. Our bass player did this, Michael Günther, bass player, and whatever he found something interesting, he taped it. So when you listen to and that was maybe the beginning of this kind of world music, because we combined the sounds from the streets or from these musicians. We went to a belly dance concert, and we listened to the music, and he recorded all this, and that was the base for our Marlash records.
I got you. And then, so after that, you guys, were a little, were better known than before you went to Egypt. And then the record sales for Malaysia was okay, or no, you didn't sell that many vinyl at the time?
Well, the first problem was that as we were a live playing, improvising band, and we have never been into the studio. So when we had this contract, we were in a very good studio here in Berlin for 1 week, and we had to try to produce our music, but in this long player format, like half hour and half hour, So as we were playing long improvisations, it was very tough to find a way for us, to get into the mood. And I remember, and also the studio was very old-fashioned. And I remember when we were telling the engineer, he was a very straight, old-fashioned kind of, engineer, like with the Beatles, these guys who really didn't understand what was going on. And we were telling him, the next piece we're going to record, and we start with a meditation. We do a meditation. We're all laying down, and then we are starting to play. So keep the tape running, but it will take some time. So we were meditating, and everyone was very quiet and relaxed. And then the first guy, after maybe 10 minutes, started to play some tones, and the next joined in, and it was fantastic. And all of a sudden, from the speaker, the studio speaker, we hear the announcement from the sound engineer. Should we record now or what? So oh no,
recording.
Yeah. So
man,
this was these times where the studio people didn't really understand how we were working. But we were glad. We had a very nice guest musician, Peter Michael Hamel, who was influenced by Terry Riley, and he came and he played this wonderful minimal organ patterns. And in the end, we did quite well. But we weren't really happy with our record company, and I don't know about the sales. I think the sales were okay, but this music wasn't either of these bands like Tangerine. We were not commercial music, it didn't play on the radio. It was like strange for the mainstream.
Yeah, got you. It's funny. After we finish this interview, I need to call Peter Michael Hamel as well to organize an interview. I would say he's a very nice person. He sent me a lot of material last night, and he's unbelievable.
Yeah.
He has produced so much stuff.
Yeah. And
then he became a teacher, a professor, and he has a wide range of stuff, man.
Yeah, fantastic.
Not just electronic, but the stuff they did with you guys, and then more classical. Ballet. He have done so much stuff, man.
And he's a good singer. He does his singing fantastic.
I need to poke him after that. And then how long after that you guys put the the second record, right? The second was called the second album. That
Yeah.
was a reaction. It was so you put the first record out in Malaysia in '72. You began touring. You did have a contract for, and then it was. Now you were, better known, I suppose, in Berlin, and it was the sales, and then producing the second album did open up a lot more opportunities for you guys, right?
Yeah, well, first of all, I must mention on this tour, this Near East tour, we went to Egypt and to Lebanon, Cyprus and Greece. And in Lebanon, we did a concert in a church, and there was this young guy, Assad Debs. He was a Paris-born Arabic guy, and he listened to our music, and he decided to become a manager, a promoter. So, and that was very big step for us and very good contact, because he said, I will do tours for you in France. So we were playing in Paris, and it was Nico. I met Nico and the singer and all this, because he was managing Nico also. So we had a very good success in France, a bit more actually, because the French audience was more open to our kind of music as the Germans were. But yeah, we had a good status then, and we were quite known. Also in Germany, not first league, but maybe second, and we were doing good concerts, festivals, and all this. But then we had problems with our guitar player, Jörg Schwenke, Yoshi we called him. He was we were taking drugs, all these bands like progrock, they all were taking, like smoking hashish or taking LSD, and some of them were also taking hard drugs. Which was, of course, very, very difficult. With Keith Richards from the Stones, if you have a heroin addict in the band, it's always,
very bad.
He's not reliable. So yeah, we had to split, which was in every band, when you have a band and you come to a point where you decide, like the Stones with Brian Jones or whatever, there's a guy who's not working with the band anymore, and then you throw him out of the band. It hits you pretty hard, and the spirit of the band changes. So that was, and now I regret that we did it. That I wanted to say your audience also. For other musicians, like the band Can, I'm sure you know the band Can. They had this guitar player Michael Caroli, and we were good friends with Can, and Michael Caroli was addict too, but they kept him in the band. They said, we keep him and we support him, and that's very strong. But Can, they were a bit elder than we were younger, and we didn't know better, so we threw him out of the band, which was bad for him, and he never really got his feet on musical ground anymore. And we got a new guitar player, Stefan Dietz, and he was a fantastic guitar player, and he was the member of the band then, and with him we recorded the second. Unique.
A beautiful story. If you can elaborate on the composition Laila, for me it's the most beautiful thing you guys put together at the time. At the time, it was beautiful, very, very well done. And it's version 1, version part 1, part 2, part 3, and there's many I have seen on the record and on the social network, on Spotify, and YouTube, like 4 different version of that. That's a beautiful composition. How that came together? This is a very
that was still the result from our impressions from Egypt, because there was this beautiful girl, Laila, a young beautiful Egyptian girl. We all fell in love with her, and she was we stayed 1 week in Cairo and Alexandria, and she was with us all the time. so we wrote to honor her or to dedicate it to her, and that was a composition still made with Jörg Schwenke, Yoshi, the other guitar player who plays on Malesh, and myself, you know, well, with this two guitars play together.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was to honor this lady, and that comes from this period. And I must say, together with this krautrock music, sometimes this happens that there's the same thing going on in a different location, like the West Coast. You had all these bands like Grateful Dead, like Allman Brothers, Birds, when they played live. 8 Miles High Live is a fantastic live improvisation with great guitar player, and Allman Brothers, and they were a big influence too for us, you know, playing this like doing bets and these great guitar players who played twice with two guitars and you know, dueling, and that was an influence too for this composition.
Yeah.
But it had nothing to do with Stefan Dietz, the later guitar player. It was still a composition coming from the Malesh times.
I think Stefan Dietz passed away recently, right? Last
year.
Yeah. I wish. Yeah. He's an unbelievable guitarist. I mean, he's very. Everybody wanted to play with him, you know, when.
Yeah, actually,
with you guys, you know.
Actually, when we decided to throw out our former guitar player Yoshi, and we had to do it quickly because the tour was starting next day or something. Yeah. We wanted to play you wanted to ask his brother Frank Dietz. He's also a very good, very known guitar player. Frank Dietz, he played with a German singer-songwriter Peter Maffay, who were very successful, but more commercial mainstream music. And we asked him, but he couldn't. And he said, well, ask my brother. He's also a very good guitar player. So we asked Stefan, and he had time. So he came with us. And he was more like jazz-orientated guitar player. But I had problems with him personally, I must say, because he was a very straight person. For me, he was a fantastic musician, no doubt about it, and I'm really grateful that he helped us developing this kind of music. And he also, when he left the band after the record we did, he gave us all his compositions, like First Communication, Sunrise, in the Morning Sunrise, and so that was very generous of him. But personally, I had problems with him because I wasn't such a good guitar player. Maybe I was jealous, and he couldn't really deal with my way of playing. So we got not. Normally, I'm a guy who gets along with everyone very, very good, but with him it wasn't so close, you know. But still, in the end, after we didn't see each other over the last years, but. When he was about to die, I wrote a biography, and his brother Frank Dietz, he was taking care of Stefan, and he gave him this my book, and I did a little dedication because I mean these stories are old, and it's sad he died, but that happens, you know.
Yeah. How old were you at the time? No. When he died, but when at the time that he began playing with you guys. 21, maybe 20. I think 21. Yeah. I got you. And then, can you tell us about? And we want to begin talking about a little bit of Ash Ra Tempel. What can you tell about your friendship with the Ash Ra Tempel guys at the time before you joined?
Yeah, as I mentioned, the Beatstudio earlier, which was the base for these bands. We met. There was different bands. And we listened to the others, and we played concerts together because we were on the same kind of music, you know. And I remember, for example, when Christoph Franke and I went to see Tangerine, you know, for the first time, and to see what they are playing. Oh yeah, wow, great stuff they're doing. So we were influenced by each other. So there was a friendship, and also with Konrad Schnitzler in when was it, like in the 70s or 71? Konrad Schnitzler, he was the first member of Tangerine. He was more like a sound architect, or I don't know how you what do you call him, but a very avant-garde thinking guy. He was more like coming from the art school, and he was I think he was a student of Joseph Beuys, the artist, and he formed this band Eruption. I don't know if you know about it. That was the first. We did like 4 concerts with him, with Manuel, with Hartmut Enke from Ash Ra Tempel, with Michael Günther, with Klaus Schulze on drums, and myself. So we were playing together some concert as well. So there was a big friendship. But when Klaus Schulze decided to become a solo artist, and Hartmut Enke, the bass player, he got crazy. I think he took too much acid, so he left the band. So there was Manuel Götzing all by himself. And I just was living in France. That was in '74, and Agitation 3 had split up also. So I didn't have a band, and Manuel didn't have a band, and then he did this record, Inventions for Electric Guitar.
Yeah, of course I do.
So I listened to it living in France at that time. Because I wanted to live in France, I didn't want to live in Berlin anymore. I listened to this music, and I was really impressed by this new way of playing electric guitar. And I knew I could do the same music, and I knew that Manuel was looking for musicians. So I went back to Germany, to Berlin, and had a meeting with Manuel, and said, let's play together your kind of music, let's try it. So we did a jam, and it was like, bing! It was like we hadn't done something different all these years. It was like first love. So we decided to play one concert in Paris with another musician, John Strawn, but he was only for this concert, he was playing synthesizer, and we played the music of this wonderful record, Inventions for Electric Guitar. And then I was living in France, and Manuel was living in Berlin, but I went back to Berlin then because it didn't work out. My try to live in Paris as a musician. So I went back to Berlin and played and kept playing with Manuel then.
Yeah, you're playing as a duo, right? As a duo for a while, right? And I'm in the process of trying to get an interview with Manuel as well. He's an unbelievable musician too. Plus, he's a very nice person, man.
Yes, but he lives with his wife Ilona. I'm sure you know him, and of course it's not so easy to get an interview because he's very shy, and he doesn't do a lot of interviews. Well, I would try. And I talked to one of his manager, and he sent me the contact info. I emailed him a couple of days ago. And let's see what happened. He's releasing an old record that he did some years ago that he'd been busy, but I will try. And so you did have the same guitar teacher like Manuel when you were like 12. Right. So you guys knew from one another before, man. Right. As I talked earlier, we met a couple of times. We didn't play together, but we met a couple of times when he was having a lesson and I came in, or other way around. Yeah. So we knew each other very early, at an early age. But at this time, when we were 12 years old or 13 years old, of course, we didn't know that we would play in a band together. But we kept playing since '74 for like over 20, 30 years. It stopped in 2000. But yeah, that was unpredictable, and that was a great time because Manuel is a very great musician, very good person, very nice sense of humor also, and doing these tours in France and in England, just the two of us playing this minimal kind of music. I loved that really, and that was a great time.
Yeah, no, it's a key, absolutely. What about the album de Vercou de Cristal? That came after Correlation or before Correlation?
No, well, the album came out later, but the music itself was created partly from Manuel at his home. He did some music for a radio station, and the contact to Philippe Garel, who was the how do you call it, the director of Berceau de Cristal, the film director, he was the former friend of Nico, and we met in south of France, Nico, when we were playing a festival, a beautiful amphitheater in Arles with like 7,000 people, and there was a fantastic full moon concert, or I don't know if it's full moon, but it was open air and this ancient place, and I remember Ken were playing there, Nico was playing there, Kevin Ayers was playing there, and Ash Ra Tempel was playing there. And I asked Manuel to avoid a light show. Instead of that, we only had some, how do you call it, some lights, like fire, you know, like sticks, I don't know the name for it. And so we had only these 4 lights, and the sky was our light show, which was amazing. It was a magic evening, you can remember. And then we went on tour further on with Ken, and Nico stayed with us, and we had a great time touring on our VW bus, Manuel, Nico, and myself. And I was dreaming of maybe living with Nico and doing this kind of tour life. And so there was this contact with Nico, and Nico was together with Philippe Garel, or they lived together in Paris, but they didn't have a love relationship anymore. So I was living then there also. So and Philippe had done this movie and was looking for music. Yeah. So we made a deal, and we just sent him our music, and it fitted perfectly. But that was only for the movie. It was no record then. It was only for the music, and the record, I think it came later in his 90s, I think, or something.
I got you, beautiful. And then you guys did Bell Alliance, right? In 79.
Well, first we did Correlations.
Correlation. Gotcha.
Yeah, I was living in France, in Paris for a while again, and I got this phone call, because then, you know, I have to say, there was an interruption with my collaboration with Manuel, because I was so much in love with Nico, the singer from Velvet Underground, and she was living in Paris, so I was going from Paris to Berlin with her, and to Berlin, and from
back and forth.
And we did concerts together, and I was her guitar player at that time, but also playing with Ash Ra, with Manuel. But there was one gig where we got an invitation for Ash Ra Tempel to play in Italy, and on the same date we had to play a concert with Nico in Spain. So I had to decide where do I play. And as I was in love with Nico, of course I choose to play with Nico. So for a while this collaboration with Manuel ended, and I had become addicted too with heroin at that time. Not heavy, but a bit addicted. So I went to Paris to cool off, and and then I got a phone call from Manuel that he was playing a concert in London, and he wanted me to join him. And he also asked Harald Großkopf, who had played with Klaus Schulze on the Moondawn record. Yeah. And he was, and they knew each other from the Cosmic Career Times with all these bands, and so they had made a record together, starring Rosie, where Harald Groskop was the drummer. So Harald was living in Ibiza for vacation, and with three of us, we met in London for 3 days.